All right. The first team to be inducted is the Portage Bisons Seals. This is a 1965-1966 team. The Portage Bison team was formed in 1959 and was a member of the Central Manitoba Fastball League. In 1965, for the first time, the Canadian Amateur Softball Association decided to organize a Canadian National Championship for men's and women's softball. However, to be able to compete at nationals, teams had to be registered with their provincial softball association through whatever league they played in. The Manitoba Softball Association approached the Central Manitoba Fastball League and, because they were a registered league, offered them the opportunity to represent Manitoba at the upcoming first ever national championship in Calgary. The 1965 Bison coaching staff and core players, with the addition of 5 CMFL players, committed to participating as Team Manitoba at the Nationals. Although they lost both of their games, they showed that they were able to compete at that level. In 1966, the team, now named the Portage Seals due to a new sponsorship, and with the addition of 2 pitchers from Winnipeg, went to the national tournament, which was again held in Calgary. Again, no medals were brought home, but this Portage-La Prairie-based team has the distinction of playing in the first 2 Canadian Senior Men's Fastball Championships ever held, and began a tradition and an expectation that Manitoba teams would always be competitive at the national level. The 1965 Bison, 1966 Seals, as winners of the CMFL, participated in the provincial championships, winning consecutive intermediate A titles. Additionally, the teams participated in numerous softball tournaments throughout Manitoba, winning or finishing in the money in the majority of those tournaments. Please welcome the Portage Bison Seals team into the Hall of Fame. So the plan is that I will introduce each of the individuals and they will walk across the stage. If you'd like to take a picture, come on up. Joyce Bergson, representing Steve Bergson. You may want to hold your applause or you'll have raw hands by the end of the 3 teams. Judy Bergson for Danny Bergson. Jim Brands for Joe Bruce. Jody Dallin for Gary Cobb. Oh, I'll pause. There's pictures being taken. Wayne Denman, I apologize. Larry Dewis. Scott Dewis for Peter Dewis. Lola Doolin for Brian Doolin. Mark Booker for Frank Galbraith. Lou Gorski. Valerie Howard for Ken Lee. Doug Muir.
I'm also in there. You'll just carry it with me.
Okay. Dave Shayak. Phil Siateki, I apologize, for Norm Siateki. Dave Smith. Carol Prince for Bert Wasminity. Gary Wright for Harold Wright. Ken Wright. And not with us, but part of the team, Sean Gallagher, Brian Hyde, Ed Pellicciati, Terry Owens, and Doug Palmer. These are your Portage Bison Seals. And if I could get Dave Shayak to come forward to represent the team.
Change. Change. How often have you heard that word in the last several weeks? On both sides of the border. Ronald Reagan, ex-president, probably said it best when he referred to change. He said, politicians and diapers must be changed often and for the very same reason. Tonight, we are going backwards. You're in for a treat. We're going back 60 years. I would speculate that half the people in this room were not yet born. The 60s. 1960 and 5, 1960 and 6. It was a time when kids played outside, not online. Parents wanted to talk to their kids, they talked to them by first name, not through a cell phone. Kids played outside from morning till night, sun up till sundown, only coming home for meals. And when they came home for a meal, if you didn't eat the meal in front of you, you didn't eat at all. Mother, before sending us out to play all day, always gave us the wise advice. She would say, mind where you're going, mind what you're doing, and if you should happen to break your leg, are you ready for this? If you happen to break your leg, don't come running home to me. That would be a little treat for sure. And it was also a time for party lines. You won't remember this. People received their phones in clusters of 5 to 8 people. They were given a number and a ringtone. If the number was 448, you picked up the phone, the clerk would say, number please, and you would tell them 448, ring 4 and 2, and you would rate for 4 short rings and 2 long rings before you picked up the phone. Problem was 3 to 5 other people picked up the phone too. Those were the days. Those were also the days, the 60s. And you won't remember this, because I said half of you haven't been born. There was a culture where families gathered together, worked hard, but also played hard. The average wage there per hour was $1 to $1.10. On a good week, you could make $32 after deductions. What did people do? Many people had hobby farms. They had small farms, large farms. They farmed, played hard, worked hard, but on weekends, totally different culture. Weekends were time for ball tournaments, softball, and as it was called then, hardball or baseball. Tournaments were played on Sundays and Saturdays if there were 2 days. If it was Sundays, time was built in for them to go to church. Then the whole family went to the ball yard. Mother packed picnic baskets with chicken, kobasa, which is garlic sausage, dill pickles, cheese, rye bread, buns, potato salad, cakes, cookies, you name it. And Mother set that table up. Kids played. They ran 3-legged races. Remember those? Sack races, and 40-yard dashes for ribbons or coins, nickels or dimes. Men played ball. At that time, Peter Dewis started a league here in Portage called Central Manitoba Fastball League. The best league in the province and arguably the best in Western Canada. 1959, he started a team called the Portage Bisons. They played in a league that consisted of 4 to 6 teams: Portage Dodgers, Portage Mercuries, RCAF, Jets, and the Bisons. And at one time we had Campbell Soup and Shiloh. There was always 4 teams in that tournament, in that league. We, the Bisons, took our licks until 1964 when we started to make some noise. 1964, we were up near the top of the league, eventually losing the league to the Portage Dodgers. And then the following year, 1965, we led the league from beginning to end. Went through the league, won the league, entered playoffs, beat the Dodgers in the playoffs, were challenged by Dauphin Aristocrats in a best-of-5, beat them, and were declared Intermediate A provincial champions. There was no senior provincial championship at that time. At that same year, CASA, Canadian Association, Canadian Amateur Softball Association, declared that they were having a national tournament in Canada, the first of its kind. You had to be a registered member of the Canadian Softball Association. Our league was. Winnipeg wasn't. They approached us and said, "Are you interested in playing in the Nationals in Calgary in August?" We had many, many meetings, many commitments and decommitments, and eventually a team was formed. Remember, the average weekly wage was about $32. People would have to miss work for a week or leave their jobs, and that was not an easy thing to do. So a commitment was made. And get this, are you ready for this? It was determined that the cost to go to nationals would be $1,000. Unbelievable. But remember, a weekly wage, $32. So then began fundraising endeavors. And this is really interesting. We started to fundraise. We had a committed group of guys that consisted of the Portage Bisons, management, coaches, core players, picked up 4 other league players and prepared to go to nationals. Fundraising endeavors involved. Do you remember the expression, pass the hat? That's how we raised money. Every game we played, the hat was passed and coins came in. And one of the first endeavors that we encountered, we had the team going to Calgary playing an all-star team, and there were a lot of people present. The hat was passed, and according to the graphic, 1965, it was stated, as the hat was passed, it was noticed that there were a few dollar bills in the hat. At game's end, the tally was taken. Are you ready for this? The total collected. Are you ready for this? The total collected that night, $47.29. Most of the other fundraising endeavors involved playing benefit games, and that's how we eventually made enough money to go. According to the Calgary Herald and the Portage Graphic, the Portage contingent, representing Manitoba, playing with board uniforms, made a credible showing, losing both games in a double knockout. Saskatchewan, they lost 8-3, and Ontario, they lost 7-6. Now, Portage had made a commitment to go 2 years in a row. So the following year, we were prepared with some of our fundraising endeavors. And we played exhibition games against teams like Brandon 7-Up, Molson Canadians. We had new sponsorship. We were now called Portage Seals. And there was a team in Winnipeg called Keywell Seals. Played them, played Dow Kings, Concordia, and Pine Falls, Paper Kings, Dauphin, and we played exhibition games and collected money. I have to share this with you. This is the 1960s. When we played in tournaments that required an overnight stay, including nationals, we would sleep, get this, 4 guys to a bed. There were no king beds, there were no queen beds. There were regular beds. First thing you did is you, in my case myself, go to the washroom, get the biggest towel that was there, roll it up like a rope, walk over to the bed, throw the sheets back, put that towel right in the middle of that bed, and say to your mate, "That's your side, that is my side." As long as you know that, we'll probably have a good night. And the rooms were 12 bucks a night or $3 a head. And that's how we saved money. Off to Calgary we went. We started that tournament in 1966 as the opening game against the Calgary Hectors, 15-time provincial champions. We faced a guy named Peter Savinkoff, one of the top 3 pitchers in Western Canada. They beat us 7-3 on a 3-hitter. Next day, we played Ollie Fiddler, who used to throw the figure 8, Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan scored a number of runs. We went into the bottom of the ninth, 9-inning games, scored 3 runs to beat them 9-8. Promptly met Windsor, Ontario, in a game that was tied 1-1 for the longest time. They exploded for 6 runs, beat us. We returned home, ending up tied for 4th place. Back home, we continued with our league, won the league, played Dodgers, Portage Dodgers, and qualified for provincials, played at the Winnipeg Stadium where the Bombers were. They made that into diamonds in a double knockout tournament. We ended up losing 1 round-robin game and had to beat Powerview Lac-du-Bonny twice, which we did 9-7 and 10-0. Twice, 2 consecutive years, provincial champions. I will leave you with a couple of things, the aftermath. 1965, Vancouver Blue Boys, who were the perennial champions in Western Canada, won that national tournament in Calgary and represented Canada and Mexico at a World Invitational slow pitch tournament. The next year, Vancouver Blue Boys beat that same Windsor team that beat us. They beat them 1-0 in the final, 1966. They played as Canada's representative in the Pan American Games in Winnipeg that year. Softball was a demonstration sport. Interesting thing, when we went to Calgary the second time, we picked up 2 pitchers from Winnipeg, Ken Dilk and John Kalinowski. 1967, Winnipeg was now a member of the Canadian Amateur Softball Association. They represented Manitoba in Saskatoon and won the national championship in Saskatoon. First Manitoba team to ever win a national championship. Ken Dilk was the MVP. That Molson team represented Canada in the World Championships in 1968 in Oklahoma City, losing to the U.S., coming home with a silver medal. Finally, we have paid. By the way, some of the time from the previous people was allocated to me. The aftermath, you might be interested in hearing one last thing. We've paid tribute to people who are no longer with us. And I will say that out of the 24 people on our 1965-66 teams, there are only 11 survivors. So I say to you, and I've heard this many before, it's no fun growing old. It isn't. But consider this, many people are denied that opportunity. I played some games this year in a very competitive 80-plus league, and people had both knees replaced, hips replaced, and so forth. And they have pacemakers. They have had cataract surgery, but they still play competitively. And I'm convinced now, and I pass this on to you, it is far better to play the game poorly than simply to watch others playing it well. Folks, cherish this evening and every evening. Thank you.